we have some NBA extensions to get into.
Yep.
We're not going to talk about the ones that already happened, months ago, like Scotty Barnes and Franz Wagner and Cade Cunningham. We're going to talk about the ones that happened at the deadline. 2021 NBA rookie extensions, grading all of them. Alperen Sengun, 5 years, $185 million.
Rockets stole from him. They stole from him badly. Gave it an A+. Sengun's an amazing player. Understand that he hasn't really scratched the surface of what he can be. Houston definitely maximized an opportunity, and I feel like you said this, that he's trying to bet on himself. I don't know if that's what it was. Maybe that he was injured on a losing team. He had really great counting numbers. Obviously, we know that he can leave a strong impact on the offensive side, but his play hasn't correlated directly to winning. Not his fault, because his team obviously isn't that great. But this is a really good contract for a really good player, and this contract's going to age very nicely. I give it an A+ for sure.
Absolutely, $37 million for a player who I think will be top 25 by the end of this year. So for
top
Houston,
25,
I think it's possible.
We say things like that, like 25 is high.
It's very high. I've also heard you ask before, like, is DeJounte like top 30? Like, can Alperen Sengun enter?
No. Have I said?
No.
Alperen Sengun's an exceptional talent. He's a great player.
Can easily enter the category of Zion Williamson and take Jalen Brown, like a slight step below Jalen Brown. Jalen Brown, top 20.
Paulo
I think he can
Banchero
enter that
or
top
Sengun.
25 or top 30. Paulo Banchero, Sengun. We
We
talked about this.
Jalen Brown's crazy.
Too.
Zion,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
Zion, I don't, with injuries and everything, okay.
Well, that's
Sengun,
Jalen Brown's number one, kind of looking at it in that perspective. I would take Paulo, personally.
Okay.
Like, Paulo, like, to me, top 25 as well. But can
Chet Holmgren or him?
Chet Holmgren? Oh, I would take Alperen Sengun. But I think Chet's definitely in that conversation.
He deserves
the thing
to
is,
be.
when you're top 25, if you have one great season, you'll go into the next season in that top 25
Like Brandon
discussion,
Ingram a
because
few
guys are
years
going to
ago.
fall off, So you're going to have that, like, top 25. It's really the top, like, 10, 15. Most of those guys are stamped. Once you get to, like, 25 to 30, one good season, one bad season, one dude gets injured, all of that can change. But I gave it an A2. I mean, Sengun, I think the question marks on, like, can you build a defense around him? I think that's fair. But like you said, John, $37 million for a guy that can be a focal point of an offense, right? The end of last season with him out and Jalen Green popping off the way he did, that's what I'm most interested to see, how this translates going into next season, because we're going to talk about Jalen Green in a bit here. But this looked like the cornerstone of the Houston Rockets. If you have to pick one guy who you're going to build this team around, Sengun, he got the money. He got the money. He deserves it.
This was an A. The only thing I didn't like about this deal was that there's a player option in the 5th year, and it gives Alperen Sengun a lot of leverage in that final year. If he wants to go into free agency. No, for him, I do. For the Rockets, I don't, because you don't have control over him for 5 years. It's only 4 years.
I mean, 4 years is a good amount of time to figure it out.
I understand that, but $37 million a year at that point in time, I think Alperen Sengun is going to be an all-star level player, and he can choose wherever he wants to go. So for the Rockets, of course, you have him locked down for 4 years, but you would rather 5.
More than anything, he could decline and just extend with the Rockets for $55 million at the time, whatever it's going to be.
Sengun, I think he's only had one real year where he's been the focal point of the offense, and that was last year, and he was an all-star level player.
Yeah, he was great.
With Steven Silas, he wasn't given those sort of keys, and he's a center that can play point guard. He's a double-double machine who can play make at a really high level. I think he's going to be the best player in this draft, and I've said that multiple times before. Jalen Johnson, 5 years, $150 million. $30 million annually. Now, this was an A+ for me. Full control for all 5 years, $30 million. This is Jeremy Grant money. You think about it.
This is a really good contract, because as Atlanta has kind of remolded the roster the last year or two, Johnson's been the exact example of a player that you want to keep long-term around Trey. Like the perfect secondary option. And last year, he did miss a little bit of time early in the year, and you saw without him in the lineup just how much they fell off defensively, how much versatility they lost, because in many different ways, he is the new age power forward that can do a bit of everything on the offensive end, but then defensively brings value on and off the ball. So I think long-term, this is a key building block, whether you keep Trey or you move off of him. So I would give this an A as well.
You have to.
Got to hear what Jason Tatum says in the band.
I got it. At first, NBA.com made a mistake said 3 years, 150, and I looked down like,
Yeah.
damn,
You
Jalen
would not be
Johnson's
eligible
getting
for
50 M's. No, but 5 years, 150 obviously makes a lot more sense. $30 million for a player like Jalen Johnson, who's a lot of people's favorites to win MIP for understandable reasons too. Can obviously get to a bucket himself. Solid rebounder, solid connector as well. Really good defender, really lengthy. He can go and can space the floor with Trae Young, alongside Trae Young as well. Really great deal, especially when you're trying to build that foundation of you want lengthy sized wings that can go out there, guard on the perimeter, stretch the floor as well, and that's exactly what you want around Trae Young. So this one definitely, I'm thinking A minus, 30 M's, 5 years, A minus for right now because he can still get better. I feel like he's scratching the surface of what he can be, but A minus is still a conservative grade, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think A plus. This is probably my favorite deal out of the bunch because I think for $30 million a year, if he just plays at this level, it's probably worth it. Maybe a slight overpay, but we're expecting him to get better. You mentioned it. He's the favorite to win most improved player. He's going to have so much more on his plate this season now that DeJounte's there and could really fit in as that secondary option on this Hawks team. And he has everything you could want in a wing player, right? He could play on the ball. He could defend. He has the size. There's not much lacking from his game outside of just growing on what already is there. So even if he improves like 10%, it's going to be a great deal. If he really takes that step that a lot of people are expecting, this could be one of the better contracts in the NBA.
Let me ask you guys. He's the favorite for most improved player, but last year he averaged 16 points, 8 rebounds, and 3.5 assists.
You have to average like 20 plus to get most improved.
What's he have to average to actually
21.
be a certified
I was thinking
most
21,
improved player?
22.
I don't think he's a favorite. I think he's maybe like the third or fourth.
Is
I'll double check for you.
J-Dub there? I also saw Cade Cunningham is a potential, which Cade is fair. I think Cade Cunningham has a legitimate shot.
Currently, the favorite's Wemby. Then the top three after would be Giddey and
MIP?
Kuminga. Yes, most improved player.
Wemby?
Yep. That shit's funny, man.
And then
What's he going to do? Average 30?
And then Jalen Johnson is 4 on that list.
Wait, so it's Wemby who? I'm sorry, you skipped the two.
Wemby, Giddey, Kuminga, and Jalen Johnson.
I have heard people give Giddey some MIP love
How's Giddey?
because he's going to have the opportunity, which is insane, but I get it.
It makes sense. I like Jalen Johnson the most there. And so I'd bank on him.
If Wemby balls out, I guess it. I can't believe that he's actually going to be nominated.
Wemby averaged 24 last year, did he not?
Was it 24? It might have been 20. I was thinking 22, 24.
Yeah, I knew it was like around low to mid. He has to take the
21 last
27.
year.
21.
Oh, he's only
21. It was 24 in the
high.
second half.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Second half of the season.
He just gets to like 26.
Yeah, if he averages 26, 27, he's going to be
and he can do
MIP.
that shit,
100%.
honestly.
Yes. Way to defensive player of the year. Yeah, there's no doubt. Jalen Suggs, 5 years, $150 million. I thought this was a C. I don't really love it. $30 million is a lot. He's the heart and soul of the Magic, but you have to think about this contract while comparing it to other players. Malik Monk just got what, 18 mil from the Kings?
Yeah.
I think Malik Monk and Jalen Suggs are probably in the same tier type of players. I think Malik Monk might be a little bit better than
What
him.
did you just give Jalen Johnson?
A plus.
A for the
Okay,
same amount.
but so he gets an A
I
plus.
think he's better than Jalen Suggs.
I don't disagree overly, but we just saw Jalen Suggs be an All NBA level defender on top of improving his 3-point shot from what was a miserable 3-point shot to now.
Yeah.
Wow, he's upwards of 40% on a team where the Mavericks, their glue is defense, and he is not the focal point because that's Jonathan Isaac when he's on the floor, but he's definitely their second most important defender. That's kind of where a C to me is disrespectful. I gave it a B plus.
He's not an all-star level talent.
He isn't. I don't disagree.
Jalen
with
Johnson
that.
isn't.
Right,
I
exactly.
think Jalen Johnson is.
But
Right now?
but
I think
that's
Jalen
that's
Johnson
off
can become
potential.
one.
He could become
I think
one.
Jalen Johnson can become an all-star
Okay.
within this deal.
He could become
I
one.
don't think Jalen
He's not one
Suggs
right
can.
now.
Suggs averaged what this past season? 14, 13 as your number 3 option.
I do think Jalen
40% three.
Jalen Johnson's upside is definitely
agree.
higher. But for the Magic's team, it's not an A plus slam dunk home run type of signing, but it's a B plus. This is a guy that you need to keep around. Your best perimeter defender has taken a huge growth year to year,
absolutely.
keeping this court together. $30 million for what he gives you in today's NBA, I don't think is crazy.
What's the contract that Derek White got?
He got
I'll double check
close
that
to
for you.
40.
And Drew Holiday got what, 36, 37
Yeah,
mil?
That sounds right. 36.
the Drew Holiday
White
contract.
got 125 for 4 years.
Okay, so a little more than
31.
30. Yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna
wow.
say a little
I thought
more.
it was
than
Derek
30.
White,
Yeah.
Derek White got
Definitely
31
better
mil, and
player.
Jalen Suggs got
Right.
30 mil. I think that's an overpay for
What this
Jalen
comes
Suggs.
down to, and we saw this with the Franz Wagner deal, Orlando's a smaller market. It's looking to keep their guys in-house. And if they had to slightly overpay to keep them, they will. For Suggs, I think the only question is injuries, because his first 2 years we saw him play 48 and 53 games. If he has those injury bugs reoccur on this part of the contract, I would say a C's possible.
Yeah.
But with just how valuable he is to this Orlando team, it's very Marcus Smart-esque with his time in Boston. He is the heart and soul, the heartbeat of this defense. If Jonathan Isaac misses time and you don't have Jalen Suggs, now what was a top 3 defense last year would fall off a cliff quite a bit. And like you guys highlighted, he's gotten better every single year, specifically as a three-point shooter. He made 21% of his threes as a rookie. Last year, 39%. He's gotten better at the rim. If he just takes incremental improvement as a passer and a shot creator, just slightly alongside that duo, I think this contract will be about a B.
Damn, sure. I did not realize Derek only got 30 a year. I thought it was 40.
Yeah, that was an amazing contract.
I wonder if those two decided to take a little bit less in order to keep this core together. But
possible.
I agree with you.
Regardless, there's a luxury tax to Celtics.
Facts,
so,
but that's still a great deal considering what Jalen Suggs. So I can see where your mind's at.
Yeah, Jalen Suggs, I mean, he got paid deservedly so.
Yeah.
He is the heart and soul of their team defensively. His perimeter defense is very important to them, but I think of that deal similar to how I think of the Raptors paying Emmanuel quickly. On the open market, who would give Jalen Suggs $30 million a year? I don't think there's that many teams that would do it.
Good amount of teams would.
Yeah, I think
What teams would?
The Lakers right now most definitely would give them 30
Well,
million.
I mean,
if
you say what teams have cap space, it's a whole different discussion because not a lot of teams are going to
I think the Hornets would have gave him 30 M's. I think the Lakers, if they had the money, would have given him 30
every team
M's.
in the NBA would have gave him 25.
Anthony Simons is what, like 4 years, 100 mil?
He makes 25 annual. But we've come together and said that contract's a joke. We know that contract was a steal.
Yeah, and I think
but
he's
he only
better
makes
than
5
Suggs.
M's more, but years removed from
he
that
signed
deal.
that contract multiple years
Simon
ago.
signed that deal about 2 years ago.
3 years ago at this point, yeah.
Yeah, the role players are getting paid like all-stars now. It's just a TV bump
It's,
right now.
It's just the percentage of the cap space you're making.
A quick aside, you mentioned Marcus Smart. I heard the story that he was telling. I don't know if you know the story already. He was saying how one of his brothers ended up getting killed or died.
I saw the clip.
Yo, that shit moved me crazy. Goes into the bed, he's crying, goes and he's touching his feet, he's cold. He says, gives him a hug and a kiss, I got us. And obviously now,
story.
Bro, that messed me up. Brother goes to him and is just like, bro, me and our other brother, we ain't got it like that. It's on you. Imagine being the youngest brother and having all that on you. That's kind of nuts.
This next signing, Trey Murphy, 4 years, $112 million, $28 million annually. I like this. I don't know how much I like it. I gave it the same grade as the Jalen Suggs one.
A C.
Yeah, and the reason why is because what's the plan? He's a bench player making $28 million a year.
But he's a high-level bench player.
The plan is don't lose Trey Murphy. We'll figure out down the road what we do with this team, but you're not going to let Trey Murphy walk for
Herb
nothing.
Jones is going to start.
But with that contract, go ahead.
I think we're going the same place. You can move that contract down the line. It's easier to match salary.
As I understand, but $28 million a year.
I don't know if Trey Murphy's the contract they're moving at the small forward spot. I think it's Brandon Ingram, and them giving him this contract is
one of them's
to
going to move.
Open up the opportunity for Trey Murphy to start, because when you have Zion, what you need around him is that high volume, high efficiency 3-point shooting, and Trey Murphy is that. He missed a starter last year, but we've seen slight growth, and his skill set's so valuable in the modern NBA, and specifically around who they want to be their franchise player, that you have to prioritize that. And $28 million is not an overpay for that skill, so that's Cam Johnson money. And I think he is a slightly better version of Cam Johnson moving forward, and right now probably the same
Why is he better than
player.
Cam Johnson?
I think moving forward, he's slightly going to grow into
I think he's better than Cam Johnson.
I don't think so.
He hasn't produced
He's
more
a
than
better
Cam
shooter.
Johnson.
He's a better shooter than Cam
Trey
Johnson.
Murphy is a better shooter than Cam Johnson.
Same caliber.
Cam Johnson fell
They're
off
the
last
same
season.
caliber of player.
So did Trey
tier
Murphy.
shooters.
What did Trey Murphy shoot? He did
38% on 8
paid?
attempts.
Can you
Cam
respect
Johnson got
him?
paid a year ago.
Who?
38 on 8 attempts?
38% from 3. That's what he shot last year.
Yep.
Cam Johnson was what, at 36, 37%?
I think
Cam got 4 years, $95 million last year. And Trey got what, 4 years, 112?
Trey's a
12.
better defender than Cam Johnson.
But Trey Murphy's defense is not moving the needle.
okay. So Cam's making about like $4 million less a year.
I think
but
Trey Murphy's an
he's
average
also older
defender.
than he was.
Of course,
Yeah.
Cam's older and he's kind of reached his ceiling. Trey Murphy to me has a little bit more upside off the dribble to where he can still become a better player. And I don't think he's reached his ceiling at this.
I gave it a B minus.
24.
It's a lot of money for a guy that definitely does come off the
And he's
bench.
coming off the bench now.
I would give it a B minus.
But a year
if they
from now,
don't,
it could
if they
change.
don't trade Brandon Ingram, I'm giving this a C.
Cook. That's a very fair point.
I don't think they're going to trade Brandon Ingram. I think they're just going to let it play out. Because who's going to want to trade for Brandon Ingram?
Center. They need it so bad. They can't run this whole season without one.
I don't disagree, but I feel like they should have made that move already. Why are we going into the season?
I think they're...
The year of our Lord 2024.
I don't know. This is like I like the Suggs deal more than this. I'd give this like a C+.
I agree.
Suggs is actually more meaningful to his team.
Right.
And it's not a knock on Trey Murphy. It's just the Pelicans don't have clear roles for their players.
Their team is just an amalgamation of talent, like you're playing 2K when you're 12 years old, but you didn't actually have any mindset of
it's like, how many 80 overall players can I get? That's kind of what they're doing.
6. In theory, we should be the best team in the
He's a
league.
little higher.
Okay, let me ask you something, because I want to talk about this next deal. I'm kind of moving forward here. We're going to talk about Jalen Green in a bit, but I think this player is more relevant to this conversation. Cory Kispert got paid 4 years, $54 million, with a team option in that 4th year. That's $13.5 million. I think I'd rather pay Cory Kispert that money than Trey Murphy what he got. Is that crazy? Is that insane? I thought this deal was an A+.
That's not insane to say.
I mean, it's the great value deal out of all of these. Everyone's getting paid $30 million, and you got Kispert, who's going to give you good production for $13-14 million. It's just, what team's going to trade for him at the deadline or next season? But it's a good contract. I don't disagree.
Kispert's an underrated player. Like, this is a very good deal for someone that is one of the best shooters in the league, one of the most efficient players. Last year only made 38%, but 2 years ago 42. He's kind of like a new age Joe Harris to me, like today's version of him. So that was a great deal for Washington. On the trade market, I think a lot of teams would maybe give a late 1st-round pick for a guy like that. So I think that's I would give that an A as well. I think
it's
really
rare to usually see dudes getting paid $30 million or dudes getting minimums. The fact that you see a $13 million contract is extremely rare.
The middle class in the NBA is dying for contracts. And that's why we're seeing guys like him take deals well below the market value. There's just not that salary to really go around.
I guess they just look at Trey Murphy and they say, you have potential. Cory Kispert, we don't think you have all that much potential.
Kispert's only like 1 year older too.
I do think Trey Murphy's defense weighed heavily into him getting that much money on top of being a sniper.
He's a better defender, but he's not that caliber of a
I understand, but 27 M's, it's not we're saying you're OG Anunoby level defense. I think Herb Jones is going to get more money than Trey Murphy's going to get, but you are an elite shooter in the grand scheme of things, who are 8 attempts, 38% on the volume. And you're a pretty good defender, 3 and D, fits our scheme perfectly. 27 M's, I'm not thinking about it. Kispert, though, really good deal. I'll give it a B+.
What did you give it?
Oh, yeah, it's like a B. You know, it's a solid deal. It's Cory Kispert at the end of the day. You know, Washington's trying to do something with this team. Cory Kispert's a valuable player that you could probably flip for, like John mentioned, a late 1st-round pick. So, yeah, B+.
If he goes to the Knicks. Once he goes to the Knicks, we're going to see how good Cory Kispert really is. How much help
do you need, man?
All of it. Bring it all. Jalen Green, 3 years, $106 million. He has a player option on that 3rd year. $35.3 million. Yeah. What's the grade?
It's an absolute fucking home run.
For Jalen Green?
For Jalen Green.
What about for the
he got paid for one. Yeah, for Jalen Green. Jalen Green definitely hit a lick here. I say that where he's apparently the first player to work out a 2+1 on their rookie contract. That's also interesting to think about too.
He bet on himself.
He's betting on himself 1,000%. And I think that's fair because we haven't seen Jalen Green take that leap that we were anticipating, or especially out of the draft, understanding all the talent that he had. He never really put it together until the month of March, when he averaged 28 insane splits, 50-40. He was amazing, facilitating. He was doing not crazy, but enough. But what he was doing great was shooting the basketball and scoring the basketball in an insanely efficient clip. The issue was every other month outside of March, he was mid, painfully. If he could just keep that average and sustain, not average, like just be a quarter of that player for the entire season, I think that he would be a very quality level player. And this 2+1 in that 3rd year, most likely, if he continues to improve, he opts out and he gets himself a real deal. But for the Rockets, this makes sense. You're taking a gamble, not really a minimal gamble, on a player that has a pretty strong upside of what you saw that he can do. To me, for the Rockets and Jalen Green, I would give this deal an A- and A.
This is the +1's player option?
Player option.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's nice to be able to get $100 million and still bet on yourself, you know, because he's set for life now, but could still get a $200 million contract in a couple of years. But I mean, yeah, I think it makes sense for both sides because Houston definitely still wants to see who really is Jalen Green, right? Because the player he was the last month and a half of last season, he's probably not that because he's playing at an all-NBA KD level, efficiency level that he's probably not going to be able to reach. But can he fit within this group with all these other young players, with Sengun, who I mentioned earlier, really is the building block of this team? If he's able to fit in nicely, okay, in a couple of years we could talk about a real long-term extension. But if things go south, if the defense never comes around, if the shot selection continues to be sketchy, you're not locked into this 5-year contract where it's a contract that could get difficult to move down the line. So I think it makes sense for both sides, because then also Jalen Green proves to the Houston Rockets, I could fit here, then we could have a long-term solution for him, and he could be the long-term too. So yeah, I think it's a good deal for both sides. And what was it, 37 a year, you said? 37 and a half? It's a lot of money.
35.3.
35. It's a lot of money, but Jalen Green showed that this is a guy that can average the high 20s. If you need him to put the offense on his back for a little bit of time, it might not be the prettiest all of the time, but he's able to give you 25 to 30 a night.
Right. Jalen Green is one of the most odd players in the NBA because his best basketball has always come in the last month of the season. And it's tough because then the new year starts, he plays like dog shit in the first couple of months. And last year, he was really bad to start the year. He was actively holding that team back. And then at the end of the year, he showed that I am still someone you have to think about long term, to where, what are you going to do, not pay Jalen Green? But I think $35 million based off of how inconsistent he's been so far in his career is definitely an overpay. Now, can he be a more consistent shooter? We have no idea. And that's what we're about to find out this year. So I'm going to give this deal a C+ because I believe there's a lot of upside here. But at the same exact time, I think long-term, a guy like Reed Sheppard and Amen Thompson have a lot more realistic upside they can attain, to where Jalen Green is showing a lot of flashes, but we have to see him put it all together.
So I have to disagree with you, John. They have the upside of averaging 28 on 50% from the field, 40%
is definitely going to be a better offensive player than those guys.
I understand.
He's going to be a better scorer.
I agree.
But
we've never
scoring
seen a
is
player
not
get
just-
35 M's off 1 month.
Scoring's not just points
1
per
month.
game.
I agree with that.
Efficiency matters.
His efficiency was silly
It was
in that
insane
month of March.
for a single month.
It was like 18 games. I'm capping. It was a lot of games. It was like 14, 15. 50% from the field, 40% from 3.
As a rookie, he was up there with Allen Iverson for single game and double game stretches where he was very explosive, and we know there's a lot of volatility there, but efficiency is a huge part of it. And when you look at his 3-year sample size, he's been an efficient scorer. And so I look at what he's been with everything in mind, and I think he still has to show a lot. And parts of his game can easily still be improved. I think his floater, his runners, everything inside 15 to 5 feet, and
His
then
layup
finishing through
package, though.
contact. I mean, he's got some velvety flow, but it's a matter of
Some velvety flow.
No,
I like
the
that.
Erykah Badu be playing when Bro be playing basketball.
it's a matter of just putting it all together. And I'm excited to see him play this year, but he is such an X factor. There's a wide range of outcomes for him.
I thought this was a C-.
Had a feeling.
He got paid off of potential that he hasn't hit yet for
Potential
a
alone.
consistent period of time.
I was going to say.
That's what he got paid for. And this deal kind of reminds me of the Warriors paying Jordan Poole, but Jordan Poole's contract was more justified because of what he had accomplished prior to getting that deal. Jalen Green's betting on himself, but let's say he doesn't hit this upside that the Rockets are expecting. He's getting paid that type of money, and now he's pretty much not going to be able to get traded on the market with the salary he's making if he underperforms. Now, if he performs to the level of this deal, then you don't want to trade him. You want to keep him for the long-term core. But right now, it's just very risky. It's very risky. I mean, only getting $2 million less than Sengun.
I want to tell.
I think there's a bigger gap between those two.
I want to say you're underrating Reed Sheppard because Reed Sheppard's a way better shooter. He's a better passer, clearly better defender.
Okay.
Jalen Green's a way better athlete.
You said Amen Thompson as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the one that I really disagree with for the fact of offensively scoring the basketball definitely is going to be more difficult for him if he does not learn to develop
He
a
might
shot.
have been
Absolutely.
ill-advertised.
Amen.
He might not be a point guard in the league.
I agree. I don't think he's going to be a point
He
guard.
might be just like a small
he gonna
forward.
be?
I think he's a small forward.
But again, I don't want to
Combo.
overharp on this month of March, but it's the only real case that Jalen Green has to make this money. He's not a playmaker. He's not a passer. That's not his game.
also played some
but
really
he
bad
was
teams.
okay. They played OKC in that run. They played the Suns a couple of times. They played the Kings. There's some decent games scattered in there.
There are a lot of very good opponents that he played well
But there
against.
were some mid teams. I'm not going to say you're wrong.
Yeah.
But
Combination of
against
both?
the Suns, he killed them. He was Mavericks are in that run as well, if I'm not mistaken. He played some really great ball. Not a great playmaker, but showed flashes of being able to just hit the open guy, not do too much. But he was still efficient with his opportunity with the basketball in his hands. I don't disagree with you on the Reed Sheppard. I think he has strong upside.
And I want to highlight with Damon coming off the bench, they're better with Damon on the floor last year too. And I don't think Damon's going to be a point guard
The
next level.
athleticism helps, yeah.
But with what he brings, all of those other factors beyond scoring, it's where I think long term there's a lot of building blocks in Houston, but just you don't know if Jalen Green's really going to
I think my biggest question is, does Jalen Green fit with what the Rockets want to build? Because if you look at all of the other parts they have, they all feel like guys that Ime Udoka wants to have. Another. Exactly, that complements each other. Defensive minded as well, maybe outside of Sengun. Jalen Green's the one player on that team that kind of sticks out, that like he doesn't really fit what everyone else is about. But the upside is there, and he could give you 30, so you're going to pay for that.
He needs to build chemistry with Sengun in that two-man game. His best basketball
he needs to make a shot off those actions. That's all he needs to do.
Because his best basketball came with Sengun not on the floor.
Yeah.
So
he got the same looks though.
Exactly.
The same exact
he
looks.
Wasn't making them, and then he started to.
Yeah. Moses Moody, 3 years, $39 million, $13 million annually. I give this a B. It's the same money as Cory Kispert, but
solid deal.
I don't think he's as good as Cory Kispert, although he could get there. I think there's still potential for Moses Moody, but this was a good deal.
He also needs opportunity.
I was going to say, is Steve Kerr going to play him this year?
Yeah.
I mean, you get 30-some mil. I'm assuming you will play. That being said, I agree with you, Joel. I think perfectly said. B, decent shooter, decent defender. Just needs opportunity to show that he can play ball. And I think in this situation, maybe we start to see him play a little bit more.
He's stuck on a deep team, and it's always been deep with guys at his position. Where last year you had a couple of different players like Klay Thompson, and then this year you bring D'Anthony Melton and Buddy Hield. He just needs an opportunity to become an established role player. But I think once he gets that, $13 million is going to be pretty damn good value for a good, I think, third or fourth win off your bench.
And the last extension was Jaden Hardy, 3 years, $18 million.
6 M's. Guy that can get his bucket.
What is this, a minimum contract in today's NBA?
6 M's.
Basically.
Give it a B minus.
Your
B minus. I mean, Jaden Hardy's a decent ball player, and I'm sure Mavs fans are happy to bring him back.
He's back.
He's made his first 3?
Yeah.
First shot?
First shot.
Okay, I'm listening.
Up the game.
B minus. Because it's a deep team, and I'm not sure where he is at right now in terms of the depth chart and how much minutes he's going to actually get.
Could be a salary matcher down the line. Maybe he gets some burn. It's just tough to see. Is he ever going to get like consistent play time game to game?
Yeah, this is just basically banking on if he can be at least a rotational NBA player. And if he ever becomes that, I mean, this is
when the Mavericks were getting blown out, he gave some strong minutes.
He did.
Absolutely.
When they were getting blown out, he was getting his buckets.
He's a really talented scorer. It's a matter of, and this was something Jared Dudley was talking about in their summer league games, becoming a better passer. Because for the Mavericks, he's going to be their third guard, and we know he can be a spark plug scorer, but can you kind of fit alongside Kyrie and Luke as a creator on the second side of a play? And I think that's going to be what allows him to become like a real rotation player. But I think $6 million for him and what he can bring is pretty good value.
Anybody that plays 2K, my league, knows that Jaden Hardy, per 36 numbers, is always averaging like 26 a game. He's a 6-man a year candidate in my league, and every year he really turns into a star.
He
in 2K.
was number 1 ranked prospect in his class. It was actually my graduating class before he went to the G League. No, I mean, he played Nevada, but
we're in the same class as him.
Same high school class, yeah.
What, you ranked, bro?
No, I was not. It is weird though. I'm getting to an age now where a lot of these guys are playing against are going to the NBA or they're in the NBA. Like Dylan Harper. Like it's so weird watching him play now because like
you were amongst some elite company.
A little bit, and I was the one defending them. I was a few years older, so I was kind of the.
You getting your ass busted?
No, Dylan Harper didn't score on me. He was also in the 7th grade. He was in the 7th grade. I was in high school.
You were a senior?
No, I was a sophomore.
I'm crying.
I was like 2.5, 3 years older, but we play against a couple of kids around the league. We're going to.